Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, March 4th Committee of the Whole meeting, Cedar Falls City Council. We'll do a call to order, and roll call, Madam Clerk.
Schultz.
Here.
Latta.
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Hawbaker.
Here.
Ganfield.
Here.
Chrisman. Dunn. Here. All members present except Chrisman absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll move on to item number 1, Diversity and Equity Inclusion Update from our Chelsea Loring.
All right, hi everyone. I don't know if I've met all of you yet, but yeah, I have been here for a little over a year now as a DEI specialist. I started January last year, so just wanted to give everyone an update and let you know where we're at with everything on the DEI front. Okay, awesome. So my position was really created out of the Racial Equity Task Force, I think back in 2018, and I'm working in a couple different areas, obviously internally with the city and our Human Resources Department, and also finding ways to work with our community, whether that be through organizations and partners, but also I'm the liaison to our Human Rights Commission, so I get to have that opportunity as well. And just a very brief snippet, I guess, of my elevator speech for what I do is providing diverse, equitable, and inclusive opportunities for current and future employees and within our communities. So it's a lot of work, and you know, I'm hoping that next time when I come up here, I can give you some more graphs and things and show you where, you know, we're really at, but we need to build the structure. So that's why I'm here, is working to build that structure and keep things moving. So just a little bit about DEI, just some very kind of brief info on it. Diversity is really just our uniqueness, our differences. It's not just the things you can see, it's other things you may not be able to identify with people. So age, sex, gender identities, race, neurodiversity, religion, spirituality, mental health, a lot more than just that list. Equity, you know, we used to kind of talk more about equality, but we know that people have different needs, and equity is really ensuring that people have what they need to be successful. So just some simple things you can do to practice equity is actively listening. It's kind of a part of my counseling background, I guess, is just being present with a person, you know, dropping the notes, not listening to respond, but really just giving your full attention. Being open, being flexible, and being collaborative, that just kind of creates an environment for people to really share their needs. So, inclusion, ensuring everyone is welcome, free to be themselves, and feels valued. I see inclusion really as the gel between diversity and equity. We can have a really diverse staff, but if people don't feel like they're welcome here, they feel like they don't want to come to work, then we're not really doing things right. So inclusion is ensuring that, yeah, everyone feels welcome, free to be themselves, feels valued. And I guess from the workplace side of things, you know, some simple things, you know, I think DEI is really about just taking that extra step. So you're having a team celebration, okay, do we have any dietary restrictions, accessibility needs, making sure our facilities are compliant for people, ADA compliant, things like that we don't often think about, but not talking over others in meetings, just giving people that space and using people's chosen pronouns as well. So a little bit about kind of the internal workings of what's happening for DEI with our city staff. I started off with a DEI 101 training for all of our staff. That was recorded as well, so that's a part of our onboarding process, really diving into basically some of those slides that I pointed out there, but then also how do we take and implement that DEI within our own roles. We have some DEI management courses, so those were given to our leadership. Pull that up here, so I got that. And that was really, yeah, just addressing discrimination in employment practices, preventing and stopping harassment. Sexual harassment course is another one we did this year. Also trauma-informed care. That's something that we partnered with Friends of the Family to do a webinar on. I think a lot of us know now that it's not just, our mental health professionals, it's not just our schools, it's not just our first responders with trauma-informed practices, it includes all of us. So that's something that I'd like to continue doing more trainings on moving forward. Just 2 stats that I want to throw out there that are very specific to Blackhawk County and really speak to trauma, starting with children, but really, this is things that they follow you across a lifetime. So in Blackhawk County, 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 4 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. So that comes from the Family and Children's Council of Blackhawk County. We also have some of the highest rates in Blackhawk County and Iowa for ACEs, and those are adverse childhood experiences. So anything from abuse, if you have a parent or a caretaker in the home who has a mental health disorder, or you grew up around someone who has substance abuse issues, these are all pieces of a trauma, and just something that I think we can continue to be aware of as staff, because it's not just for our children, these are things that follow you throughout a lifetime. So we also have a Know Before platform, so that's providing our educational opportunities, courses, accessible courses for our staff. When I got here, I started a DEI resources library on our SharePoint, so you can learn anything from about microaggressions, inclusive language, biases, all that is within our resource library, and anyone can reach out to me to update that as well and add to it. I've also created a monthly mental health minute on our SharePoint, and that's really just giving people extra resources, just kind of tidbits of information about how to improve your mental health, whether it's learning about a walking meditation or watching a webinar. So, all right, so this is really the page that I would love to have like a graph up there and be like, well, when I started here, here's where we are and here's where we are now. We're not there yet. I am really working and continuing to work to practice more of this DEI through the education piece, because we need that structure there. But we also need to work on that inclusion piece, and I'll get into this a little bit, but I know we did a survey with staff in 2022, and that's something we're going to continue to look at and improve. That gives us the feedback that we need to ensure that we're improving our culture as a city with our staff. So, but I have been able to branch out and make some really good community connections. I've been working with One Cedar Valley, Patiz Libulelas out of Waterloo, they're a Latino nonprofit, Norman Grant of Four Corners Coalition, and World Grace Project. So all of these organizations are really looking at barriers in our community, addressing them, especially for Black and brown people, immigrants and refugees. So those have been awesome connections to have. And also improving our national diversity recruitment resources. So we've added historically Black colleges and universities as one of our connections for recruiting nationally as well. And really we're reaching out to those national resources when we have a lot of leadership roles. So that's been super helpful to have. Updating our job application and processes. So I know that this is a barrier. Right now online, if you're gonna apply, we have a number of things that you need to click on and download. We are getting that updated so it's all in one place. We've also updated just the form itself, made things more inclusive. We have a spot on there for chosen name. So obviously we need your legal name, but if you'd like to provide your chosen name, that's another opportunity for people. We've added in DEI-focused interview questions and leadership and public-facing roles. So, this is really just setting the precedents for DEI is important to us, and we especially hope that people stepping into leadership roles or where they're working with the public a lot know the basics of DEI, but then also how are they going to implement this in their position. And then continuing to review really our job classifications for barriers, so really eliminating unnecessary things like can you lift 30 pounds for an office position? Probably not necessary. And then also things like, looking at people's experiences versus just degrees, taking that into consideration too. Title VI in the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I've become our designated coordinator, and there's information now on the website, so you can reach out to me. If you actually scroll down at the very bottom, you're going to see a Title VI tab and then also an accessibility tab as well. And that's really for people to reach out if they have any issues, they need accommodations. It's just putting that information out there and ensuring that we're upholding Title VI and the ADA as well. And I've also met with Tracy Bradley with the Iowa DOT, and she's, along with these the grievance procedures, updating our website, she's kind of given me a list of tasks just to continue and make sure that we're getting that information out to the public in as many ways as possible. We have started an ADA team here, so it's me, Jamie Castle, Matt Buck, and Matt Kruger. The last time that I know of that we've done ADA assessments, really, I mean, they're ongoing with our buildings, but the last time we really did a transition plan for ADA with our buildings was in 2010. So a lot has changed since then. Again, I know that buildings and inspections, they're continually, looking at and assessing the physical aspects of our buildings, but now we're going in and ensuring that we're compliant, and if we aren't, we're looking at ways to improve not only the physical aspects of the building, but also looking at our services as well. How can we make that accessible to people? So the ongoing DEI initiatives, I had talked about this earlier, employee climate report, that's something that we definitely, it's good feedback for us. It falls right into the inclusion piece. How can we do better? Some of that feedback that we had gotten in 2022 was, higher pay, more benefits, including for part-time workers, supporting public safety, and then really increasing our communications, not only in leadership, but really amongst our division. So continuing to keep that at the forefront. And then I've also gone through our personnel policies, city website, fire and police SOPs, and given edits and feedback and how we can really remove just really those unintentional barriers and also provide gender neutral language as well. So DEI committee, this is something that I had talked about when I first got here. I know that this work takes all of us, and I really wanted to see a commitment through either an ERG, an employee resource group, or a committee, something where we can have a group of people coming together and being in a safe space, bringing their whole selves to work, and talking about how can we make things better at the city. So we did get this started. We will have our third meeting next month. These are once monthly hybrid meetings, so you can meet in person or online. So far we have 12 divisions represented. And again, this is existing to create a workplace where everyone belongs, our ideas are valued. They know they can contribute to the success of the city, and everyone is welcome to be themselves. And again, this is just going to help us. It's going to be a selling point for job seekers. People are still looking for DEI. That's important to them in their organizations. It's an idea generator, and we're also looking at what we can do to improve our services, especially for historically marginalized groups. So a little bit about my role within the community. So firstly, I have included on SharePoint and actually Matthew at the library and Melissa Denning also helped me put this together. It wasn't just me. we have a community resources informational directory on SharePoint, and this is really just making sure that anyone coming to City Hall, Rec Center, wherever it may be, if they need something regarding SNAP benefits, or it could be anything. We can't just say, well, sorry, we don't do that there. We don't do that here, and that's it. We're obviously a part of a barrier then. So this is really just giving people, the staff, the ability to take that extra step with the public and help resource them. So it's anything from financial resources to addressing food concerns, homelessness. That information is in one place for our staff. I know the library has information on it for their staff as well and for the public. So kind of a community piece there. Obviously, my role with the Human Rights Commission, doing a lot of work in the community last year. We were able to hold a fall summit, a pride recognition event, a meet and greet. This month, we have a whole bunch of things planned. Women's History and Black History Month, kind of a collab story time. That's on Saturday, March 16th at 11 at the library. We'll have a Women's History Month event and an Israel-Gaza event as well this month. So it's nice to kind of have those collaborations and be able to be a resource for the HRC as well. And then, yeah, the rest, this list here is, these are all my local and statewide groups that I'm a part of. So, and this is really informing not only my work here in the Cedar Valley, but also really what's going on at the state level. One Cedar Valley, I'm liaison to that group. DEI Cedar Valley group, it's kind of a collab between really leadership from different organizations, but also a lot of people in HR. Our Iowa Equity and Inclusion Officers group, other people like me across the state, we meet once a month. And then a couple other groups there. I'm going to point out our Advancing Equity in the Cedar Valley. That's a newer group that formed. And really, that came out of Blackhawk County Public Health, really looking at really what happens over time for people who have inequities in the community. And a lot of the research is obviously pointing to not only mental health, physical health issues, financial wealth issues. So we have a lot of different people in the community that are working in different sectors. So I'm in the workforce sector, we have a health sector, communications, language, and all these groups are really informing the work of really what we need to do better as a community. So, get into some goals here. I have actually, I think, completed the limited English proficiency plan. That's just kind of being reviewed by my higher-ups right now. But what that is going to do is really offer people in our community who may not have English as a first language a way to have their services and needs met. I know public safety has already had interpretive services in place through Blackhawk County, but as a city, for the rest of our departments, we didn't really have anything in place. So part of this LEP is being able to utilize, it's called Hands Up Communications out of Cedar Rapids. So they're going to provide, not only direct interpreting services for languages other than English, but also American Sign Language as well. So if you have someone that comes in on the spot, we didn't have a meeting set up, that's okay. We can still get someone online with the app in a couple of minutes. So I think that's going to be a huge benefit to have. Also, I've been able to help Captain Procure to help implement a mental wellness peer support program for public safety. That's another thing when I started. I just know there's a lot of needs there, a lot of unmet needs for our staff, and I want to make sure that they're being supported. With our DEI committee, establishing a structure, so hopefully next month we're going to be developing our subcommittees, our purpose, goals, and tasks. Continuing to complete our ADA assessments of our buildings and sites, so that's including like our trails, our boat ramps, just making sure that those are accessible. And obviously I mentioned updating job applications and that process on our website. I'd also like to put in place something to track our diversity metrics for our boards and commissions. I know we get our EEO demographic reports for our staff, but I feel like that's something we need to keep an eye on as well. And lastly here, the Human Rights Campaign's Municipal Equality Index. It's really an organization that examines really municipal laws and practices related to LGBT inclusivity. I know Waterloo's on the list, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, some of the other big Iowa cities, but I'd like us to get on that list and keep that at the forefront. And then, yeah, really just working to continue to promote equity and work-life balance, and whether that be through our DEI committee or just our policies and procedures. So that is all I have. I'm wondering if there are any questions.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Open up the council discussion, questions. Councilmember Schultz.
This is really important work you're doing, and we are impressed with what we're hearing, what I'm hearing. And some of you know, Brian knows out here that I met my wife when she was 15. And just for clarification, I was 16. It wasn't yesterday. So we've known each other a long time. And my mother-in-law, who passed away nearly 25 years ago, had been, in her later years, particularly confined to a wheelchair. She spent about a year in an iron lung with polio back when she was a preteen. And she really fought to get ADA, things like just getting around her block. They lived up on 9th in Iowa, and to go around the block in her wheelchair and have access from block to block. When my wife and I walk our streets now, it isn't without conversation all these years later about how she would be proud of what she fought for and what we need to continue to work on. And I know Chris here is our great proponent, but we all are on mental health, and it's from the DEI aspect when sometimes it gets lost in there on what all that encompasses. And again, it's all great work that you're doing to get that all structured. There's a lot, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Dunn.
So I sat on that racial equity task force with a great group of folks who gave their time and talents from around the Cedar Valley, and that was one of the main requests or recommendations we had. So I'm incredibly grateful for you, Chelsea, and your professionalism and your knowledge. I'm grateful for the council folks that I sat with. It was 2020 when that racial equity task force was put forth, and it was probably maybe 2022 before we actually put that on the goal and implemented to make sure we had a DEI staff person. So to hear all the work, and Gil's right, like just you speaking, there's things that I don't know that unless you are specialized that you think of, but as soon as you say them, I mean, most folks are like, well, absolutely. It's kind of like if you were welcoming someone into your home, you would want them to feel as included and welcome as possible so that hopefully they want to come back again and stay for a while. So I just am very happy to hear the update, and I look forward to the future when we have measurable things to look at.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other council comments?
Noah would like to ask a question.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, I've asked members of the Human Rights Commission when they came and spoke to us about this too, but our student population is extremely diverse. We have non-traditional students, students with disabilities, students from different backgrounds, you know, all the different groups we have on our campus. A lot of changes, possibilities to DEI right now. You're talking about all the state groups that you're involved with. What kind of collaboration do you have with the university on what you're doing in your position? You know, I know there's, like I said, there's a lot going on at the State House around Regent DEI. There's a lot going on at the Board of Regents. There's a lot probably going on in relation with the community. So I actually sit on the DEI Advisory Committee on our university as a result of those directives by the regents. I'm interested to know what sort of that collaboration, if any, looks like, or if you plan to, or what your thoughts are on that.
I think that's something that can definitely be implemented still. I'm working with a lot of people who work at UNI in the DEI spaces and a lot of these groups, but there hasn't been any just like direct crossover yet. So that is definitely something that I'd like to look into too. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Noah? Council members, any other comments, questions for Chelsea? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Chelsea.
All right, thank you.
All right, next up, we have the automated refuse collection rates, presentation by Brian Heath. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. And just for the record, Councilman Schultz, I knew my wife when I was 16, but she wouldn't have anything to do with me for 7 years after. So all's good, though, now. So, what I'd like to talk about today, if you pardon me just a moment to get set up here, I'd like to talk about our automated collection and some of the problems that we've had with it since inception. So, get slideshow here. There we go. Okay. So, like I said, I want to talk about automated collection, specifically what we're experiencing with overfilled carts and return for service requests that we're dealing with, and we have been dealing with for several years, probably since inception of the program. But first, I'd like to start with a little history with our automated collection. And basically, our automated collection is a pay-as-you-throw program. It began in 1994, and this was a measure to assist the state mandated solid waste reduction. And basically what that was a DNR mandated reduction of materials going into landfill. So this is what a lot of the cities that did their own refuse collection chose to do as one of the methods of reduction. Other things such as reduction of appliances, tires, yard waste, all them things were also banned from the landfill at this time. So a little bit about that. I'll talk a little more about pay-as-you-throw here in the next few slides, but in 2002 is when we went automated and started using the RFID system. And that's the radio frequency identifiers that you see, the little tags on the yard waste carts. And we did that so that we could charge for the yard waste collection on a per dump basis rather than a monthly fee or a set fee of some sort. So it allowed us to have a true pay-as-you-throw type of system for our yard waste as well. It only charged when the material was dumped or when the cart was put out for service. In 2022, we updated our software program from a low frequency identifier to a high frequency. This program also allowed us to capture a lot of other information with the automated collection, not only with yard waste, but now with solid waste. All of our solid waste carts are now outfitted with our RFID tags. We also have photographic capabilities to capture images out on the street, whether the cart's not out, whether the cart's overfilled, or other situations like that. So mentioning some of them advancements, the RFID technology, the photographic evidence, the verification of services, and a complete service history. All of this now allows us to control the methods of operation and have now the ability to track and see where these overflow carts are people that are not putting the carts out that may call in and suggest that we miss their cart. Back to pay-as-you-throw. As I mentioned, this is basically the method of choice for us. It's a very simple and fair program. You basically pay for the amount of garbage that you put out. People that choose carts, their typical choice is based on their family size, recycling participation, and what their choices are, pre-consumer choices, as well as their recycling abilities. So a lot of people can get by with a 32, a lot of people can't. So some of them can't get by with anything but the largest cart we have. So the pay-as-you-throw program is also incentivized by the Blackhawk County Solid Waste Commission. So part of the grants to communities that we receive is based on having a pay-as-you-throw program. So making that effective and realistic is one way that we get a payback from the Solid Waste Commission. I think we're getting right now, I think we're getting per capita, $5 per capita, which does not include UNI students. And I think our last check was 150,000 in that neighborhood. And that's an annual grant to community just to help offset recycling costs. We currently offer 3 different sizes. Our 35-gallon card is $9.46. The 68-gallon is $17.86, and the 95 is $27.84. Pay-as-you-throw is also known as SMART, Save Money and Reduce Trash, the SMART program. So just FYI. Another service that we offer for those that have, the occasional party or a holiday gathering where they have extra trash, we currently offer a bag tag where they can purchase a bag tag at a local retailer and then place it on the cart, visible to the driver. You're allowed one bag, excuse me, you're allowed one bag per dump or per extra collection, and it must be visible, the tag must be visible, and it's $1.25. Pretty reasonable for residents to be able to do that and still have it picked up curbside. Some of our issues with our collection right now, I mentioned the 3 different sizes. Our 32 gallons, probably the biggest abused cart that we have, obviously, because it's the smallest cart, it's the least expensive cart. People try to save a few dollars per month, and this is what we get. A lot of times they just can't sustain their weekly garbage amounts with that size of a cart. So that, along with carts not being out to the curb on time. Now, the picture on the bottom depicts that we now have the capability of seeing if carts are out or not out, and we're able to collect that photographic evidence and save it in our system for future use. Just another FYI here, carts being overloaded, we average about 12 per week on those, and then the carts not being placed to the curb on time, we're looking at around 8 per week is where we have to go back and collect a cart. Those are probably low estimates, by the way. Some other examples of overfilled carts, not only is it a problem with the pay-as-you-throw system, but it also creates pollution. We get a lot of trash out on the streets. If the cart gets dumped in a state like that, a lot of times the garbage will end up on the street or blowing around the neighborhood. So what we're after is trying to minimize this problem. So our proposed modifications for overloaded carts, this would be identified by the lid being open greater than 45 degrees. We're proposing a penalty of $15 for each occurrence. This may also impact landlord accountability points if it happens to be on an income property that the landlord's responsible for. Return collection, same thing. We're looking for a $15 service fee for carts not out on time of the service. We would be certain that all violations would be recorded and must include this photographic evidence that we're now able to capture. The photos, like I mentioned, are captured with onboard camera systems, and they're integrated into the back end of our routeware program, and we're able to see that instantaneously as the route's being collected. A little comparison here, surrounding municipalities. City of Waterloo, they charge a $20 service fee. That's whether you have an overfilled cart, if your cart's not out, or if your cart's not accessible. They'll charge you $20 for each of them issues. City of Waverly has a $25 fee for overfilled carts, in the city of Cedar Rapids. They're just getting started with the routeware program, same as Waterloo and Cedar Falls, and they're charging right now $11, and they're capturing theirs with the video portion of their routeware program. So our request here is to make some modifications to Chapter 10, the garbage and refuse section. 10.5G is a table with all of our fees in it. What we're looking for council action tonight is to direct staff to prepare the language to be added to the table in section 10.5G of $15 for overfill carts and $15 for return of service. And with that, I'll take questions.
Open up. Councilmember Schultz.
Are you able to view the situation from, say, the Public Works Department of what the live, or is it a video that you watch after the fact?
It's after the fact. On the back end, we're able to see within 5 minutes or so a picture that was taken at any given stop. It comes right through the system, and on the back end, our admin staff can take a look at that, or the supervisor with refuse can take a look at that.
You were saying that you have an average of 12 per week of the overload, and it's oftentimes that smaller cart. Is there any process in place to notify either the homeowner or the landlord to say, hey, each week we have the same overload issue? You know, before we go through with any further action, is there a possibility you may want to change to the larger can, or is there any notification like that?
For several years, we have had a system where we send a letter out to those that we've noticed having an issue week after week or a fairly regular. Sometimes they'll make the change, other times not so much. We don't have that luck all the time.
Brian, could you tell me, you said that you can get the bag tag at local realtors. Is there anywhere in particular?
Yeah, we have the bag tags at the Cedar Falls Transfer Station, and I know Cedar Falls Hy-Vee. There was a question today whether the Cedar Falls Fairways had them and the local hardware store, Ace Hardware. We're going to look into that. I know they all carry our Christmas tree tags, but we're going to double check on a couple of those others to make sure. But we do know Hy-Vee and the Cedar Falls Transfer Station.
And then do you have similar overload issues with yard waste? Is it comparable with garbage pickup, or?
Yeah, yard waste would be very similar. You know, it's typically $10 per dump for our yard waste carts. And, you know, it's a little harder to have an overfilled yard waste carts if you got loose material, but you saw the one picture with all the brush sticking out. That becomes a problem and creates a mess.
Sure. Thanks.
Councilmember Cruz.
Thank you. So Brian, I was kind of interested here. You were saying you pay for your dumps, but what if a property is empty for a while during the summer rental season, college kids are gone, or you're doing a remodel? We get a monthly charge for theoretically every dump that it's not happening though.
We do offer an exemption, a 2-month minimum. We offer an exemption for refuse collection for just what you mentioned. If you have a vacancy, if you have a remodel going on,
Right.
if you're in the middle of selling a property, we will offer an exemption.
I've done those, but they automatically turn them back on in 3 months.
If we see activity in the property,
Yeah, but there was no activity.
then it'll be turned back on. And it shouldn't be unless there's activity on the property. And the way we gauge that is by if there's utility usage that shows that there's folks on the premise or something like that. And typically, we work very close with utilities on that.
But if you're remodeling, there would be electric usage, but not necessarily garbage.
Yes. And we can gauge that too.
Okay.
And
I'll have to
typically,
speak with Public
Cedar Falls
Works.
Utilities is aware of that as well.
Okay, I'll have to revisit that then. The page 25, I guess, what I have here, with the 5 different examples, if we could pull that up, Denny, or you have the one example in the upper right-hand corner where there was 2 carts side by side, and it mentions a 45-degree angle. The smaller one on the right, I guess that would be less than a 45-degree angle. That wouldn't be charged, even though it kind of looks like it's overfilled. And likewise, the one in the lower left.
Yeah. The one in the lower left, I knew that wouldn't be a 45-degree angle. I put that in there just to depict that the problem that we have with trash on the streets when
Sure.
when we have carts
That's
that
pretty
can't close
indicative
the
of a
lid.
raccoon
But
digging into the garbage, and I've had that quite often with my properties.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, how do we deal with that? Is it driver discretion? I mean, that wouldn't be a charge, because it's not,
Well, with the photographic evidence, we're going to know, if that cart's above 45 degrees.
no, I know. But the one in the lower left, just because there's garbage on the ground, the wind could have blown.
That's correct.
Like the other, what was it, a couple of days ago, the wind would have blown this one with the big ball, that would have been down the street. So, and the lids pop open with the wind, how do we deal with that?
Well, we tried, our refuse drivers try to pick up as much as they can on windy days. In fact, we've actually, in some of the open areas, we've actually sent vehicles out ahead to make sure the carts are upright, to make sure the garbage is picked up. We also ask residents, anytime we have conversation with our residents, to bag their garbage to try to prevent some of these things
Sure.
from happening.
But anytime the lid is up just even the tiniest bit, and your cart is facing west on the north-south streets, the wind will pop the lid open almost all the time.
There's a chance of that, yes.
It's a really good chance, actually.
But then we're still going to know whether or not, if it
Yeah,
has.
I get that. I'm just wondering, how we're going to deal with that. Another example I see often is broom handles that stick up out, and the lid kind of closes, kind of not, or a tenant will fold up a box, and it's clean garbage, you might say. It's just, I don't think we should be that heavy-handed in some of these scenarios.
Right. And we'll have some discretion with things like you mentioned there.
Okay.
And the other thing I want to point out is that if we have a situation where we have a grossly overloaded cart that we feel like we can't even dump with the automated truck, if we're going to do the surcharge, we're going to collect that material right there just to prevent garbage from being spilled on the street, and prevent additional garbage in the future. We're going to take care of those things right away, and then we'll use that photographic evidence for when we make the charge, if that occurs.
Well, I know in my neighborhood, there's nobody walking behind the truck because they do the arm. And in other areas, they bring the carts and there's the flipper, whatever you want to call that, to grab.
Semi-automated.
Semi-automated, okay. The semi-automated people do not pick up anything on the ground. I don't expect them to.
Well, it depends on the situation. Now, if there was extra bags around the cart, they're going to get the cart only, and then they're going to
Right.
tag that cart and let people know, the resident, landlord, whoever, that they've
Sure.
are out of compliance.
Now, we have a turnover of students at UNI, 25% a year or some number, and many of them will look down the street and see that people are putting their garbage out, so I can do it too, and it disappears, and I would push back very strongly that the landlord is responsible with points system here, because the law really is that a tenant, whether it's a student or adult or anyone, when they rent, they own the use of that property, physically on the interior and really everything. The landlord can only walk up to the front door, got to give 24-hour notice. So it's the tenant who should be, if you say fined or charged the service fee, it would not be the landlord, because I didn't put the garbage there. I can remind them that they have to do it, and there should be an education program through Currents and a warning system. And I don't know how much we've thought of doing a specific step-by-step warning to say, oh, by the way, we started a $15 fee, and your cart would have had that. And then offer a bigger cart as for the two lower ones, and so on. So.
Two things that we do, you mentioned Currents. Every fall, because of the rotation of college students, we'll put, it may look repetitious, but every year we put the basically same information in the Currents so that students understand, if they read it, what we're up against and what they need to do and to take care of the garbage. The other thing, if this is approved, the fee would go to the person who the refuse collections account, his name is in, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Schultz.
so similarly, Diane and I have been landlords for 33 years, and I have some responsibility. My tenants have responsibility. We come to an agreement on what those responsibilities are. if they overload their trash, get a point, we have that discussion. As a responsible landlord, then I deal with that, both with my responsibilities with the citizens or the city, and both with my tenant. So I don't see any problem with holding people responsible, saying, well, it's not my problem because, someone else saw something. It is a graduated system. You're not going to lose your ability to rent a place from a one-time situation with trash, right?
That's correct.
So, but habitual and not taking your responsibilities on these things seriously, it does come around and slap you on top of the head sometimes. So,
Yeah. I will mention that.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Hawbaker, jump in quick.
Okay.
Thank you. I just had a quick question for Mr. Heath. You mentioned on average 8 to 12 a week or something to that effect. Do we track the data of where the overload is at over the course of a year and what properties they're occurring?
Yes, we do. I was just going to mention that. We have the capability of knowing who or what residents or what properties are ones that end up having overfilled cart, or they're not out. We're able to capture that. Yep. And in fact, we were looking up, and that's where we got that information on the overfilled carts. We were able to track and see right down to the resident which ones were violators.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Latta.
Thank you. Brian, as a follow-up to that, do you see trends? Do you have repeat or habitual offenders in that?
Yes, we do.
And is there any recourse with that?
Not so much at this time.
Proposing right now?
The method we use right now is we tag the cart, hey, this cart was overfilled. But we still, again, we don't want to leave that there unless it's grossly overfilled and there's bags around it or bulk items around it that weren't called in for the bulk collection. We don't want that mess to get out of hand. So we will pick it up and then tag the cart and indicate that it was overfilled or whatever the problem may have been. Maybe it wasn't taken back in. Maybe there was other issues with it. Well, we got several items that are checked, that you can check on that tag to let them know what the deal was.
Sure. Thank you.
Councilmember Dunn?
Yeah,
Come back.
just kind of follow up, probably those same type of questions. Is it the regular big trucks that go back out typically? And like if somebody, says you didn't get my cart, well, obviously we know if their cart was actually out during the time, right, because of the tag to track it. And is it 7 a.m. that we're supposed to have our carts out by?
Correct.
Okay. So if someone calls and says, is insistent that their trash be picked up, is it the big, huge garbage truck that typically goes back out and gets it?
We'll have one of two, yeah, they're big trucks, yes, all of
Yeah.
them, whether it's the semi-automated rear load or if it's the automated truck. If the automated truck is if we have one that may still be out on route and goes back to wherever that stop was, or if it's easier for semi-automated that may still be out, typically it's going to be the automated truck though.
Sure. And I assume those trucks don't get the greatest gas mileage. Is that a good assumption?
You're right.
Okay. And then also there's staff time. So do we kind of know about, like, what's that do to a staff member? What's that add to their route typically?
Well, it adds time to the route for sure. We kind of talked with Waterloo about the cost to go back, and it's going to depend on how far you got to go, of course, and the size of truck you're driving. If you're driving a single axle or tandem axle truck, you're getting about maybe 4 miles to the gallon of fuel. So, yeah, it's going to depend on where it's at in the city, but we kind of come up with a number, and Waterloo did this. They come up with about $50 per time you go back. And again, depending on the location, to go back to get it. We're fortunate that we have the transfer station. We're very fortunate in the city to have a transfer station. So we've got that closeness of being able to dump, and if somebody's in there, they can run back out quick. It's kind of in the core of town, so we get that luxury.
Yeah, we one time forgot to get ours out, and I guess I didn't even think to call the city. We just got it down to the transfer station because that's an option as well, right? You take care of it yourself.
Correct. At the transfer station, the option there is if you have extra bags, you can bring them in for 75 cents a bag. That's a real good deal there. The other thing, if you have bulk trash in a pickup, more than several bags, 10 bags or so, then you're going to be charged based on a minimum fee of $7, and then I don't recall what it is exactly per ton, but then it goes up to the tonnage rate.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I kind of just, when I'm thinking about it, I did a ride along with a refuse truck one day, and like, again, there's another opportunity where I guess some things I don't think of because that's obviously not a world that I'm in really ever, except for on the citizen side. And so, getting an opportunity to sit with a staff member who does that job, it's insightful. And I think about, obviously things happen, to all of us as far as maybe you don't get it out on time one time, but I think of the habitual folks and what they are getting for basically free right now not free to them, but it's costing all of us for that truck and that staff member. Not to mention, I just think about the staff member and like, maybe they want a break. And so I don't see a downside to this. I think of this proposal as a good thing.
Councilmember Cruz.
Yes, thanks. I want to say I get the feeling that by my remarks about pushing against the landlord accountability points that I'm a irresponsible landlord. I'm far from that. I've had, in the past, code enforcement would call and say, oh, there's a chair outside. Some of the past code enforcement officers did that. They'd call me at 8 in the morning, and I took care of it as soon as I knew, and I called the tenant and said they can't do that. I just think you could be sending hundreds and hundreds of landlord point letters out, and they used to be certified at, what, $285 a piece or whatever. Do they still do it certified? Okay, that's a huge
At the rate of
expense.
hundreds and hundreds?
They could, with this depiction here, Gil, that everybody, can you stop the raccoons from dragging that stuff out of the garbage? I think it's a little.
I think I trust the discretion of how they're going about.
I do too. I just want to make a point
Take a picture.
to
they're
make
gonna figure
sure
out,
that
well,
there
was
is
it windy
discretion.
today?
One at a time. One at a time.
I just want to make sure that there's reasonable discretion. If there's a candy bar wrapper, litter is litter, in different people's eyes, it's different things. But if you go through the process of doing a warning, then suggest upsizing, and if they don't, then tell them we want you to upsize when it becomes habitual, like this one with the 2 big bags just stacked there. I mean, there's obvious things here. To me, it seems. But we're wasting money with certified letters when, you can hit everything with a hammer and it's not going to change it a whole lot. But enough said on that. I called Waverly and spoke with the Public Works people there, and they had a interesting thing, a spring cleanup where for free, they went for, I don't know, a week or so many days and cleaned up large items throughout the city. Did we have that at one time, or are we going to do it again? And if we do, it'd be great to do it the 2nd or 3rd week of May when tenants are turning over predominantly after graduating.
Little history on the bulk collection. Years ago, we had exactly what you're talking about. Waverly does. I think Waverly's a little smaller community, so it may work for them. We had a situation where we did bulk collections. We had spring cleanup. People brought in hundreds and hundreds of tons of materials into our complex, and it took us a week to clean it up. And that's no exaggeration. So seeing that, we changed our plan to go to our current bulk system where we do 10 stops per day per route. We also do them on Mondays on the yard waste day. So we do 10 stops per day, and that's kind of equals it out across the entire year, and that works really well for us.
And that's 10 items for $10, I think it is?
That's correct.
After that, it's $1 an item?
Yeah, I don't know all of that right off the top of my head, but yes, it's up to 10 items for $10.
Okay.
And then if you have an appliance or something that we charge separately for, then that additional cost is on there.
something else I remember in years past, that if you just had a mattress, you could bring that in and dump it for free as long as you're a resident. Is that an old program that doesn't exist anymore, or?
Another thing, history-wise, with the transfer station, residents were allowed to dump for free at one time.
Okay.
Bring in some sort of identification, and they were allowed to dump household materials for free. That didn't work out well either because we were losing revenue. We were running in the red when we were doing that.
So you had more garbage than you thought?
Well, and back then too, like I mentioned, you took everything, including the kitchen sink, to the landfill. Now you don't take half of that stuff.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of keeping this kind of to the resolution, is there any other items specific to this? Because I believe we're looking for just a motion from this group to bring back,
Well,
as you proposed. So do we quickly just want to discuss?
Mr. Mayor.
I'm in favor of
Councilmember Ganfield.
it. Dustin, go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to ask one simple question. Hopefully it doesn't sound like a stupid question, but we're not charging people simply because they didn't have their cart out, as the slide states. They have to request a return visit for that $15 return fee,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, they could maybe have their cart up because they're on vacation or because
Right.
there's no garbage.
Yeah,
They
they're just
may
going to
not
pay
have-
their monthly
Yeah,
fee.
it's
They're not
gonna
going to
be-
pay.
It's going to be a situation where if our staff typically will take a shot if they know it's not out and they can see it. And then if we get a call later on, then we can look back and say,
Right.
here it is.
That's the only time we're
That's
going
what's
to incur
going
that fee.
that's what's going to trip that fee.
Perfect. So if you do like Councilmember Dunn did and take your own refuse, that's totally fine. We're not going to fee
Absolutely.
anybody to death. I would also be in favor, and I guess I'd maybe ask, as we plan to probably refer this over, that Mr. Rogers would take a look at any kind of grandfathering that would need to happen for landlords' lease agreements and things of that nature. If we were to start assigning landlord accountability points, I would want some kind of a grace period so those leases could be updated. So with that instruction for Mr. Rogers to double check that, I'd like to refer these two new fees for drafting.
Can I clarify something? Are they not getting a point right now with the current? Did I misunderstand that?
Typically with the garbage carts, unless it's a real issue, they're not.
Right.
If it's a bulk situation where they've got a bulk stop that's out there without being scheduled, then that's going to probably trigger the point
Okay.
system.
So something's going right now, we
Yes.
just want to make, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
So that's an official motion.
Yep, so Dustin has moved.
second,
to- Seconded. So open up for discussion.
Yes. As long as the language in what we draft will include a warning, options for a bigger cart, because what it's saying here, overfill cart, $15 per occurrence, subject to a warning process, step by step. Mr. Rogers, we incorporate that in there?
I'm not going to draft this on the fly here.
No, I'm just,
But the concept, if council's in favor of some kind of warning system, tell us what kind of warning you want. Is it 30 days? How many warnings
Well-
in a year? So we need some direction if council wishes to go through a warning system.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Dunn.
This is my hesitancy with a warning system. To me, this is all very much common sense and being a good neighbor. Warning systems sometimes delay actual action. So I have a big problem with that. Like, I get it. I get being a good human but I also get being a good human and not having your garbage blowing all over. And as far as a landlord goes, I can respect the thoughts, but that's a business. So it's your job as the owner of that property to, I guess, figure that out. And again, it goes back to being a good neighbor and having on the way here, on the way I took to get here, there was a perfect example of a very overflowing garbage can with trash all over the street. So I'm not really in favor of anything more than what we've got going, other than the proposed motion, or that's, I guess, my 2 cents.
Darryl, did you want a motion
Well-
amendment or recommend an amendment to the motion?
I recommend an amendment of some sort to educate the public. And as I said earlier, tenants come and go in the city, and it's not just college students. And you say right now you have a system where you tell a customer that they're overflowing, can you upgrade? I mean, you have some way of doing that currently. I think that should continue, and how Mr. Rogers puts that into language, it would be, you know, working together with your current policy to tell someone, you know, you need to upgrade because every time you got right on the edge of 45-degree angle and the wind's going to blow it out. And technically, that fits what you're describing, but in reality, that person should have a bigger cart. Now, that's driver discretion. I mean, how do you incorporate that? You can get heavy-handed, then the wind opens up, blows it away, then you got a littering. Well, in good faith, the person puts that out there. I mean, the other option is you can jam it down in. I mean, there's nuances to this whole thing here, but I think there should be some method to inform a customer that they can get a bigger cart for minimal money, cheaper than the fines will be, and still be a good neighbor, and here's how you can be a good neighbor, something like that.
You're asking for that to be written in, that will happen before a ticket or a
I think they should
penalty is
get
enforced?
one warning with education, I guess, or a flyer, or you have stickers that go on the carts. I've seen those for different purposes with different
That's
check marks.
the tag I mentioned that the staff will put on the cart if it's overfilled or if there's other issues, too close to a vehicle,
Right.
too close to an obstacle.
And that's a warning, basically.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, Councilmember Hawbaker.
All right, thank you. I think we have a motion on the floor and a second. And as I think the motion and the second is just for the referral so that it will come back before the council. And I think that would be the more appropriate time to work out what I see are very loose detailed changes right now. We can't even describe what a progressive discipline or a warning system would look like. And so to me, the best step is to vote on the referral.
Isn't this a case, though, where we're directing them to draft language? And in that language, we want something that would allow a warning, description, education,
So if I can maybe frame it, are you looking to make a motion to amend to include an early warning or an initial warning?
early warning / education of options with different size carts. People move into a property and
Let's
there's
just keep it to a motion that we can.
okay.
So an early warning, you're motioning some form of early warning measure before an enforcement is made.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're asking for that to be included in the verbiage and the drafting of the ordinance.
Yes.
Is there a second? Seeing none, that motion doesn't move forward. So we have the original motion to approve as presented with some clarification to have Attorney Rogers look into grandfathering landlord-tenant lease agreements if that's needed. And so any other discussion? And any public comment on that item? All right, seeing none, we will look for a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, we'll move forward to, thank you, Brian. Move forward to item number 3, ceasefire update and discussion. So this was added by me onto our agenda here. So first, just wanted to say thank you, everyone, over the last several weeks for making time to look into this issue. We've received a request to look at having a ceasefire resolution for the Israel-Gaza war. It's been my feeling, the consensus from this group has been that it's not an appropriate action for us as a municipal government to take. Separate of the request, though, there are actions I've been taking and looking into just based on concerns we've heard from the community group that I plan to speak to. And I plan to move forward based on a lot of that, but first wanted to make sure we open up the council discussion and any thoughts or feedback.
I feel, at least from my end, that my voice has been represented well. I don't feel that you haven't represented my voice as when we say that it isn't, or the council doesn't have consensus. My consensus personally is not there for a city action as far as a request for ceasefire.
Thank you, Councilmember Dunn. Councilmember Schultz.
But I guess I've spoken before, too, that it isn't that we aren't concerned about world issues or that these events are happening in all over the world, but I'm getting comments from my other citizens that are intimidated to come to council meetings and talk about things that we just talked about that are city business, direct city business. We just spent a half hour talking about the garbage routes and cleanup, which is the bulk of mostly city business. So I would stay at that.
Thank you, Councilmember Schultz. Any other comments, discussion? No, go ahead.
Yeah, I would also just say as we've had you and I students here, a similar concern that, it's not that this isn't a problem and you all are here and talking about it and that's important. It's simply that, there are other things we're also focusing on as a city, and we, in my position, working with the College Hill Vision Plan and other things. So again, I appreciate people coming and speaking, and you have a right to do that. But it doesn't mean people are ignoring you. I think it's just a difference of priority. So I know that's not the answer you may want to hear, but from the students I'm speaking with, as the student here, that's my answer for you. I just want to make that clear. Not ignoring you. I'm here to talk after meetings too, and I hope you do come up and talk to me. But just wanted to say that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Noah. Any final discussion? And just for the sake of fairness, I'll look if there's any motion to have this on the agenda. Otherwise, if not, we will look to close out our committee of the whole discussion. Again, thank you everyone for making the time to look into this over the last several weeks. I know it's a first time, I believe, at least in my knowledge, that the council's had a request like this. And I know many of you have taken the time to dig into it, talk with some of the community, research on your own, so just appreciate the time. With that, we will close Committee of the Whole, and we will adjourn for 10 minutes for the City Council meeting at 7 o'clock. So, thank you.